number 28.
Kim svarūpa-mityātma darśane avyayā bhavāpūrṇa-cit-sukham.
That's number 28.
Is a very simple and yet extremely loaded verse, just like any other teaching of Sri Ramana Maharshi. Sounded always pithy, sounded always terse, sounded always like, oh, yeah, I get it. And yet, I think it takes a while for, true seekers like us to get to the depth of those meaning, of those words. So here, in this verse, Kim svarūpa, what is the nature of myself? Svarūpa is your self, yourself as it is. Svarūpa is my most naked form of my nature is Svarūpa. It's not just my countenance. It's not just my appearance. It is my core person within me. That is me, that I call by a certain name. Kim, what kind is it? Asking us, what kind is my true nature? Now, the short answer, the Vedantic, non-dualistic answer is, my nature is Ananda, Chit, Brahman, happiness, bliss. That is true, no doubt about it. Bhagavan has spelled out for us in the practical way, find out your real true nature. The ultimate nature he has already told us, Shankaracharya has told us, Saint Augustine has told us, every other saint has told us. And many, many scriptures in the world of many different religions have also alluded to the same fact. We all know it. And yet Ramana Maharshi has spelled it out, dissected it, bifurcated it, and laid it out. In simplest of words, he says, Kim svarūpa-mityātma darśane. What kind of nature is yours when you find out your nature? Atma darśane, when you really meet with your nature, what kind of nature would it be? Don't take it just as play of words. It is, what kind of nature are you seeking that all the scriptures are talking about? What is that nature? What is my nature? My nature is the ultimate nature, but yet, what would it look like? What would you meet with? Because you're not going to have a separation from that meeting. If there's a separation, there would be duality. You would not have met it. Am I making sense? Is Bhagavan making sense? I'm just regurgitating. I would have to merge with it. I cannot be the darkness that I want to see in a room unless I go into the room and plunge into that darkness. If I were to describe the darkness to somebody, I would have difficulty describing the darkness in any words other than telling the person, you really want to see darkness? I can't describe it. Go, and that's darkness. So he's saying, Atma darśane, what would that personal self would be like, which is the ultimate self actually, but yet it's like saying my mind controls my mind to go beyond my mind to be able to be a good meditator. We all know that, basics. That's basics of dhyana. We know, all of us know that, meditation. Similarly, the self that I'm seeking has to be sorted through, reach through my limited self, the egotistical I, that will reveal the ultimate I, and they are not going to be separate because they both reside in the same place, in the heart. Right? Similarly, this self will be revealed. How will it be revealed? He says, what will be the nature of that self? He says that nature will be avyayā bhavāpūrṇa-cit-sukham. Avyayā, it is that self that cannot be waned, cannot be dissipated, cannot be expended. It is it cannot diminish, it cannot weaken. It is always as it is. Avyayā cannot be dissipated, cannot be waned. You know, waxing and waning of the moon. It's not like that. It's not going to wane, it's going to be static. Avyayā, abhava. Unborn. It is not something which was born yesterday, is living today, will be dead tomorrow, will be born again. Like all of us. The limited I am born now, I was born before, I'll be dead now, and then I'll be born again. This self is not going to be born again because it wasn't born to begin with. It is not leading temporary, transitory life. It is life. If life were to be understood in proper sense, that is life, which does not meet with death. So he says it is cannot be expended, cannot be thinned out, cannot be waned, cannot be dissipated, and it is abhava, it cannot be born again, and pūrṇa, it is absolutely wholesome, it is complete. It never has any sides which is not properly finished or properly completed. It is no portion of it which is not whole. It is whole. So one that cannot be expended, the one that is not born, the one that is avyayā bhavāpūrṇa, it's completely whole. That which is the chitta, that is what my consciousness is, that is consciousness. That defined in those three attributes is the consciousness. Avyayā bhavāpūrṇa-cit-sukham. Sukham, that is the ultimate definition of permanent happiness. That alone is happiness, that which is full, that which is wholesome, that which cannot be expended, that which is the chitta, consciousness. That is consciousness, that is my happiness. Happiness is none other than consciousness. So let's understand this term consciousness. Yes, Ramiro.
For me, happiness doesn't exist.
Sorry, say it again, Ramiro.
Happiness doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, okay.
It's only moments of joy.
Okay. And permanent happiness is that alone, which is avyayā bhavāpūrṇa. These three words that Bhagavan has used here. This is the ultimate happiness is consciousness, where I would not have anything taken away from it. I would be, and that would be also not being born again. Out of the cycle of life and death will be my permanent happiness. And therefore it is very interesting to continue to do these kinds of meditative dialogue with ourselves in our meditation, just as we must unfold our complete nature to ourselves and be absolutely earnest and honest about it in describing my own nature to myself.
So, Bandhu, I wanted to comment about what you had said, and also.
Yes. Good. Yes, so, Jennifer from Manhattan. Go ahead. Or Brooklyn, somewhere in New York. Somewhere in New York. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah. So I think simply like being without being attached to the mind. And so, when you're talking about like consciousness, like to be like, we can't really, I guess I'll speak for myself. Like I have all these thoughts of this is the way things should be. This is the way things should be. I'll be happy when this happens. I want this, as opposed to just simply being beyond all those things. So that's what I'm understanding what you're saying, that happiness is just simply consciousness, being, and we tend to complicate it. We tend to I guess simply said, that's it.
Very well said, Jennifer. Very well said. Yes, being beyond any expectations of happiness is happiness. And how do we get to that? Practically speaking, I get to more happiness when I have lesser agenda for myself. Even if I take the basic needs, my needs should be diminishing over a period of time. And I should be detached from more and more things to which I was attached previously. I should be giving more, receiving less. I should be reacting less, accepting more. And Bhagavan has given us lots of hints in previous verses. And mind you, to absorb this verse, one should definitely concentrate on verse number 19 and 20 also. If you want, we can briefly touch upon it. But 19 and 20 of Updesaram I'm talking are the foundation, not the foundation, but absolutely a cross-reference to understanding verse number 28. 19 is Kim Soru, I forget now. 19 is Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvata ahipatatyaham nijvicharanam. Ahaminasha, that is 20. Ahaminasha bhajya jayam hantaya suratiritsvayam bhavāpūrṇa-cit-sukham. But we'll not go there right now. So happiness, for me to get to my happiness, I must have lesser needs for myself, and I must understand myself as to how labyrinthical, how large a cobweb I have of my own likes and dislikes, of clothing, of taste, of money, of relationships, of idiosyncrasies, of everything, my jealousy, my everything, sensuality, sexuality. I have so many likes and dislikes, and the way I can get closest to myself is to keep diminishing that. Also, as in one of the verses, he has said, Ashtamurti Bhriddeva Pujana. When I begin to respect the Jagat, the world around me, of which I'm a part, I'm not a switch. I just can't say, okay, I will not be part of this world. It's not happening. The prarabdha that is connected with the body is bound to be experienced in this life. But how do I experience it? By looking at the world as if it's his creation with these 8 elements, and I should respect that element every moment of my life. The air, the ether, the fire, earth and water, sun, moon, and self. Self is the Atman, the one that speaks from me, from within me in my heart when I have a shock, or when I have tremendous fear, or I have tremendous jubilation or exaltation. That's the Atma, that's the soul that's talking to me. And I should be connected with that and respect these elements at all the time. And say, this has been given unto me. How can I dissipate that? How can I violate it? How can I use it without thinking about it? Just as we talked one time, and Ramiro and I were talking the other day, and I said, what is it? How do we define us or I being alive right now? What do I attribute it to? What do I attribute my living to? With what? How can you say I'm alive right now? Because of what? And comes the answer, because of my good health, because I look after my body and I eat well and I exercise and I do this. And the real answer is, who puts the breath in this body? That breath is that consciousness. That is part of me. That consciousness is that which I experience in deep sleep when I don't have any identification with my mind. I'm not dreaming. I'm not seeing any world, which I'll come back to from. I am not here, and yet I am. And the moment I wake up, the egotistical I takes over, the world takes over, I'm consumed by it, and I forget the consciousness. That is happiness. That's why we all experience happiness in deep sleep. Otherwise, we won't, all the creatures sleep. That's the primordial nature of consciousness. Quietude. As our minds become less turbulent, we begin to like more silence. When our minds are more turbulent, we cannot accept silence. We are uncomfortable with silence. Mind is so turbulent that you say, hey, why is everybody quiet? Hasn't that happened? Experiment with somebody who comes to your house with a friend, say, okay, at such and such time, 20 minutes of silence. I hope this is all making some sense to all of us, but thanks for all the contribution, and I really admire that. And we all are learning from each other. We all just devotees and nothing else. But anything anybody wants to say, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I feel somewhat the same. I would feel that I'm unhappy. So since I'm unhappy, I refrain from answering the question, because anything I would say about happiness would just be a speculation. So it wouldn't be real.
I like that. That's a very good answer. I never thought about that. Very, very true. Very earnest. We are all unhappy, and that's why we are still seeking happiness. We oscillate between pleasure and happiness. We think pleasure is happiness, whereas it is not. It's just a transitory state of experience, and happiness is a permanent state of feeling. It's beyond objects, beyond any attributes, and it's permanent.
Yeah, so any idea that I have about being, consciousness of being a happy state, I'm imagining it. So it's still, I'm looking for some kind of pleasure from it, I think.
Yep. Yes, right. Thank you, Peter. So we had a very good dialogue on happiness. And some people, some devotees responded in an attempt to define happiness. And they were all good attempts. And yet we have kept only 3 recordings, short recordings of those responses from those devotees who came closest to defining happiness, as we discussed, based on verse 28, based on entire teachings of Ramana Maharshi, and based on what we discussed as devotees today. And we have only kept 3. And the 3 salient ones that you have heard already in the preceding audio, those were the closest answers. One of them said simply being without being attached to the matters of my mind is happiness. Very appropriate. There's nothing else to be said. Another person said happiness doesn't exist. Only moments of joy I experience. And that is a very true reflection of happiness. Now, because I'm limited, I only know joy or pleasure because it is attached to the body or to the objects. And the third response, also very earnest, very honest, as always, was from another person who said, since I'm unhappy, so I refrain from defining happiness, because no matter what I try to say about happiness, it is going to be a speculation of something of some kind. It won't be real. So these were the only 3 responses that actually came closest to what we talk about. And this is the beauty of understanding the deep teachings such as Ramana Maharshi's teachings, such as Updesaram or Saddarshanam that we have never discussed. So I thought this would be a good ending to what we have discussed, and everybody else made a very good attempt, but everybody's definition or attempt to define happiness was defining joy, was defining pleasure by doing this or not doing that, or things like that. So with that, good dialogue, good satsang, and let's continue to do that so that we purify our hearts and diminish the hold of our minds on our body, on our life. Thank you. Namaskar. Arunachala, Arunachala, Arunachala.